It's time for Push to Play, your weekly trophy podcast with Mindy and CJ.
Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us to episode 16 of Push to Plat. This week I'm being a little bit more chilled because we're recording quite late here in Australia to accommodate my special guest today from the UK. Could I please welcome Mr. Folly? How are you today, sir?
I'm good, thanks, CJ. How are you doing?
Yeah, look, I'm pretty good, actually. Look, I'm not going to lie, listeners. I had a bit of a big night last night, and being in the latter end of 30s, it takes longer to recover sometimes. So I am totally sober and with it. I will assure you, listeners. But I was a little tired before, but I have caffeined up, so I'm pacing my speaking today because I know I get a little excited sometimes. So I'm going to try and wind it down. So you're telling me before we started, Folly, that it's not a particularly nice day over there today, weather-wise?
No, it's absolutely tipping it down, actually. So I went for a walk with the boys this morning, and it took about an hour and 20 minutes because they've got little legs, and we got absolutely soaked. So I'm in now, curtains closed, nice and warm. It's great.
Can I ask, is there ever a nice day weather-wise in the UK?
Well, I suppose our nice days differ greatly from your nice days over in Oz. But we get by.
Yeah. And look, it would be remiss of me not to ask, because there are so many POMs, or for our American listeners, English viewers, English people, I should say, sorry, that live now in Australia or migrate. Is that a plan for you, or will you be one of the few that actually stays?
I mean, without getting into politics, let's see how this Brexit thing goes. There might be a mass exodus very soon. No plans in the immediate future.
Yes. Yeah, we will avoid the politics thing. I completely forgot about it.
Absolutely.
To be honest, I would like to talk about that, but we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. No.
Fair.
I'm sure we may have differing opinions, so we definitely won't do that. Okay, good. So, listeners, listeners, if you're joining us today, and hopefully you are, you've survived the E3 smash, if you like. So 3 days there. I don't know what happened yet because we are recording beforehand. If Sony bought Microsoft, could you imagine? If Microsoft bought Sony, we no longer exist as a network going forward. Well, we didn't see that coming, did we? Yeah, if Horizon Zero Dawn 2 was finally cancelled. Oh, what a shame. We didn't see that coming, so I don't know what else. Do you want to throw something out that you think unlikely to happen, that you're going to regret saying, Folly?
Oh, yeah. So I think who saw it coming when during the Microsoft conference, all of a sudden it went dark, there was a sound of glass smashing, the Stone Cold Steve Austin music started, and the guys from PlayStation just rushed the stage, hijacked the conference, and it was all a ruse all along.
Well, see, that was the partnership they signed a week or two ago. It wasn't cloud streaming at all. It was
absolutely.
I really hope the shakuhachi flute guy turns up for the Microsoft deal as well. That would be fantastic. Ghost of Tsushima, I think it was, wasn't it? Oh my goodness. Anyway, good. So look, we're having a bit of fun here, listeners, as you can tell. But why don't we find out a little bit about Folly? Would you like to give us a little background, sir?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I'm a dad of 3, early 30s, and I was trying to think back when you sent me the running order over, CJ, and I was trying to think sort of about my gaming sort of experience and growing up gaming. I started with a Sega Mega Drive, as I'm sure a lot of people my age did, but I was trying to think where it came from, and I really don't remember. I'm assuming I asked for it, but I always remember it being there. I don't really remember the Christmas I opened it up and it was there or anything like that. It was just a fixture of the house from day one, really, that I can remember. My mum and dad aren't gamers and have no interest, so not sure where I got the idea from, possibly an uncle or an older family member. And then sort of just gamed straight the way through. So went from the Mega Drive to the PS1, from the PS1 to the PS2, had a GameCube, I think I had a Dreamcast at one point, had a PS3. I was always into my retro gaming as a teenager, so I went back and had a Super Nintendo, things like that. So, but then sort of towards the probably towards the end of the PS3 generation, I sort of fell out of gaming a little bit. I moved in with a friend of mine, sort of moved out of home and moved in with a mate from school. And I sort of thought this will be brilliant. I'm just going to game all the time. Like I was working full time. So I was just like, I'm just going to sit. I like the PlayStation's in my room and I'm just going to sit and veg out and game all weekends. But then what actually happened was, because I was living with a friend and it was exciting, was I'd come home from work or I'd get up in the morning and I'd be past a beer and an Xbox controller of all things, and we play FIFA, and that was it. And so for the longest time, for like 12 months, 18 months while I was living there, my gaming was literally just FIFA and on an Xbox, which I'm sure, like, you know, your listeners are going to be absolutely appalled with.
Look, I just love that you reference that you fell out of gaming because you started playing an Xbox. I'm no longer a gamer. I touched the evil Xbox controller.
I actually didn't mean to word it like that, but hey, there you go. So yeah, that was it. And then sort of while I was living with my friend, met someone, fell in love, bought a house and had a bunch of kids. Yeah, look, just no time for gaming. And then I know we're going to sort of touch on this a little bit later, but then sort of middle of 2017, end of 2017, I had a few issues with anxiety, a little bit of depression as well. I was going through a little bit of a tough time, which, like I say, we'll touch on later. And I was struggling. And then it sort of, I can't remember what really set it off, but I decided that for my 30th birthday, which was then sort of the middle of 2018, I was going to get a console. And it was something to look forward to. It was something that, you know, I'd always loved. And I was like, I'm going to get back into it, try and carve out some time. And yeah, sort of July last year, got a PS4 with God of War, which I know you're a huge fan of, CJ, and I just dived back into that, and it was like I never left, and I sort of I'd done a bit of trophy hunting on PS3, and then dived straight back into that as well with the PS4. Nearly had a wobble because I couldn't beat the Valkyrie Queen on God of War, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. So I almost sort of in a childish tantrum, sort of put the control down and went, life's too short. I'm not doing this. I'll just play games. I don't have to get a platinum trophy. It's stupid. And then 2 months later, when I'd finally calmed down, came back, beat it, got that platinum trophy, and yeah, sort of back into it. I'll be honest, I know the episode I listened to before we recorded this, because obviously the E3 one isn't out yet, was the Siegel one. And I'm definitely the other end of the spectrum to Siegel. No disrespect to what he does at all. Like the guy is a machine, and fair play. Anyone who wants to stack, anyone who wants to play those quick games, like I know you do yourself as well, CJ. Not a problem. I have none of the strong opinions that certain sections of the internet have. But I very much sort of I find a game I like, and then once I've decided yes, this is what I'm playing, then I'll look at the trophy list and go, right, what am I going to be able to do? What won't I be able to do? Is this achievable, etc.? So yeah, I think I'm sitting at 13 platinums at the moment across PS3 and PS4. So the lower end of the trophy hunting spectrum, I would say. But I think that's about it for me.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Well, you play. Can I ask, do you have a favorite sort of genre or style of game now, or?
Yeah, so I suppose I wouldn't necessarily say I have a favorite genre. Growing up in my teenage years, I was a big fan of JRPGs. I don't know if that was sort of my angsty teenage years, and I liked all the anime style and all that sort of stuff. I'm not sure, but I was always really into that, and it also meant you knew you were getting like 80 hours of gameplay out of your money, and sort of it was going to tell you a good story. But obviously, since having kids and things like that, I mean, I tell myself I'm not going to play JRPGs as much, but then when we touch on to what we've been playing, one of my games that I'm playing at the moment is Wild Arms 3, which I think after about 3 hours of starting it, I was like, oh God, I've done it to myself again, and I'm still playing it now. So that's going to be my obsession for the foreseeable, I think. But otherwise, just anything. If it's fun, great. That's all I want from my games.
Yeah, I like that. I would have thought there was there's a warning that comes with JRPGs that if you have children, they're just a no-go zone completely.
Yeah, it's just not for you. It's just not for you. I mean, I did have Red Dead Redemption 2 on pre-order for the longest time. That was sort of I'm really jumping on a hype train as soon as I start seeing teaser trailers, things like that. Oh wow, I'm fully invested. I mean, I pre-order it. I start scouring the internet for tidbits of information, and then about 2 or 3 weeks before the game's due to come out, I've completely burnt myself out, and I go, actually, I'm probably not going to have a chance to play this, and I cancel my pre-order, and literally, I've just exhausted all this energy for the biggest waste of time. Yeah, that's what tends to happen. That's what I should do with JRPGs, just recognize that you're not going to get a chance to play this, maybe jump onto something else, but I don't. I'll never learn. So
Wow. Look, listeners, that's a fantastic tip on how to control your backlog. Just immerse yourself in the game 2 weeks before it comes out, and then you won't buy it. I love it.
yeah, absolutely.
That is fantastic. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Look, and I also, I mean, we're not going to talk directly to it on this episode because we've got some other things that we're going to touch on. But I must ask, do you, as you mentioned, you have young children. Do they play as well? Are they old enough to play yet, or not?
Yeah, so my eldest, he's my stepson, and he is 9. He's definitely what you would call a young gamer. He's massively into Overwatch. That's his sort of obsession. I've tried various things to try and tempt him away onto other things. It literally, if he's got the controller in his hand, he's putting Overwatch on. He's mad on it. Don't let him play on mic, obviously. Don't want him getting to learning all those words that people call each other on there, but he does play, and he does really enjoy it. My middleist, he's 4. He's going to be 5 at the end of the year, and he takes an interest a bit if there's something that looks cool. Quite often, me and the eldest will play Lego Marvel Superheroes, the first one, and he'll happily sit and watch us and like shout at the screen and stuff like that. He has a good time. The youngest he's going to actually be 3 in a couple of weeks, and he at the moment no interest. It'll hold his interest for about 10-15 minutes, and then what you find with kids though that sort of age, anything they don't like anything that takes your attention away from them. Like it's just a no-go. So I mean, it's even because I want him to enjoy video games as he gets older, and I want him to be interested. I won't even play something while he's around, or unless if he's not doing something else, because within 10 minutes it's dad come and read me a story, and obviously if you say no, he's always going to associate this box in the corner with the thing that stopped his dad reading him a story, which is just heartbreaking. Absolutely, tragic. So I definitely don't tend to game too much around him unless there's other family members around who'll play and do other things with him. But I mean, knowing my upbringing and knowing a lot of my friends who have brothers as well, I'm assuming that the PlayStation 5 or 6 or whatever's going to be coming down the line is going to be the focal point of our house. I would imagine they're all quite competitive, and because of the age gap between the eldest and the middleist, any sports, the eldest just runs away with it. So if there's something that can even the playing field, like a video game, then I'm sure they'll love it.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. See, I'm a little bit older than you, Folly, and we chose not to have children. So I've been through the sort of vicariously through my friends that have had children, and I very much like the idea of having children. I think it's fantastic. I would like one at about the age of 8. I think if you could just pick one up then, that would be fine with us. But no, we don't want those early years.
You've got it all wrong. Once they hit 8, 9, they think they know more than you. That's it. You are not. You are not winning an argument in that house ever again. You're better off. I mean, sort of the 4, 5, before they start going to school and mixing with lots of other children, and before they start learning things, because when they're 4 or 5, they learn everything through you. So you can sort of tell them the things that you want to tell them and mold them as you see fit. And then they go to school, and within sort of 2 months of school, they're like, yeah, well, so-and-so's dad says this, so you're wrong. And I'm like, well, where's this come from? Like, I don't understand. I don't even know this guy's dad. Why is he more qualified than me? But so the 4, 5 is perfect, honestly.
Oh, I see. Oh, maybe we'll need to look into that. If we can return them before 8, then by the sound of it.
Oh, yeah. If there's a returns policy, we'll see. Keep the receipt.
Well, see, that's the other thing, is it, like the people that know me, I'm not very good at committing to long-term things. And so, the prospect of having a long-term, an 18 to 20-year commitment as well seems to be a bit,
Yeah,
yeah.
It's big. It's the closest thing you can do in life to a
That's
JRPG.
right.
I
It's a
think
serious grind,
it's
isn't it? I mean,
yeah, absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
Look, no, that's fantastic. Yeah. Well, look, you're the perfect person to ask this question. I think we're going to have a little bit of fun here with the question this week, listeners. Before we get into gaming stuff, of course, question, and obviously Folly is qualified because he has kids, and I know I'm qualified to answer because I'm basically am a kid. So, question for this week is: what part of a kids movie completely scared you? Now, I imagine you've seen many kids' movies, so
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I see a lot of them now as an adult, and they don't scare me, obviously, for obvious reasons. So, but thinking back to sort of when I was a kid, the one that leapt to the front of my mind straight away was the Wicked Witch of the West in Wizard of Oz, the original sort of Judy
yes.
Garland. Judy Garland. Have I said Judy or Julie there? Anyway,
Yes.
Judy Garland film, and just I remember just being absolutely horrified. But the thing is, as well, my nan used to have it on VHS, and I used to watch it when I go around there. But she's not in it from memory. She's not in it loads, so I would still put it on in despite of that because I was only scared when she was on the screen. So for the first 20 minutes of the movie, yeah, this is a lovely time. This is great. All of a sudden she rocks up, horrified for about 10 minutes, hiding behind a cushion, awful. And then she'd go away again for a little bit, and there'd be the Munchkins, the Yellow Brick Road, the songs, all great, all fun. And then all of a sudden she's back again, flying monkeys, horrific. And so I used to put it on all the time, and I don't know why I used to do it to myself because just stressed me out massively. I know we're going to talk about anxiety in a while. Like that's the original anxiety for me, the Wicked Witch of the West.
That's where it all stems from.
Yeah, it
That's
must
right.
be. And I still now, if I see a pointy hat, that's it. I'm carrying it with the sofa. But because I was doing some research for this, and I did look, and the character of the Wicked Witch of the West, actually made it to number 4 in the American Film Institute's top 50 villains of all time. So I mean, I don't
Wow.
come on my own. She's in some exotic company like Hannibal Lecter and Norman Bates and stuff like that. So clearly, I can blame being a child to a certain degree, but it must have resonated with a fair few people, I think. So that was very much my first one.
I love that. Will you subject your children to that movie then, knowing what it's done to you?
Probably. Well, I don't even know if they'd be bothered now because, now
Yes.
kids movies have sort of moved on a little bit. If they're watching Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff like that, they're not going to be fretting about a woman with a face painted green. I don't think they'll be too fussed. But then the other one that I'd sort of noticed as well, was thinking back, was the movie The Witches. I don't know if you saw that. The
Oh yes,
adaptation.
that was terrifying.
Yeah, and the thing is, because the witches were in that more, I think I only ever watched that once as a kid. I never subjected myself to that more than once. But just that was horrible, and so clearly I've got some sort of aversion to witches. I think that's the running theme. But yeah, no, just didn't like that. And the worst thing about that movie as well, thinking back, is the boy ends up being a mouse at the end. Sorry, spoilers for the witches, but he gets turned into a mouse, and then the resolution is they beat the witches, but he's still a mouse. That's not a resolution for a kids film. That's terrifying.
It is terrifying.
Just properly did not like that one at all. But those are the two for me, I think, when I was thinking back.
Yeah, look, and it's funny how it's still so clear in our minds, isn't it? Stuff like this from our childhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure listeners,
Absolutely.
you can relate now thinking back. But I mean, the one for me, and I still find these things terrifying today, not so much in the remake, but in the original, was, of course, the terrifying Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and those freaky bastard, the Oompa Loompas. I mean, what the hell was going on with those things?
Yeah.
That is not something you subject a child to. And they did that dance in the TV studio with all the white. Oh, too much. Too much.
Yeah, and I mean, and the whole thing was singing songs when a child sort of was subjected to some unfortunateness. So you've got the added thing that you're going to see an Oompa Loompa, you're going to fall away, you're going to run away, trip over, and then they're going to sing a song about how you've hurt your knee. It's just while they dance around you. No, I'm with you. That is creepy.
It is creepy, and they're miserable bastards as well. Like, I just don't get that at all. I will probably go to my deathbed still afraid of those things. But it is just amazing how vivid the image of, not
Yeah.
so much the remake, as I said, but the original still sticks with me. So look, listeners, I'm sure you have something there. Maybe if you're not as old or in the same sort of rough generation as Folly and myself, maybe you have something much more modern, or maybe you're just so desensitized now nothing affects you. That could be as well.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, that's lovely reminiscing. I like that. Good. So anyway, look, we better, just before the listeners cut their own throats because we haven't talked about a game or a trophy in like 20 minutes, let's throw across to what you've been playing this week.
Yeah, so I've sort of got 3 games on the go at the moment. I try and, with the backlog as it is, I try and limit what I'm playing and what I've got going on to sort of 3. The first one I'm playing.
What a novel idea! I love that.
Yeah. Well, the problem is when you have less time to game, you're stuck on those games for a long time, and my OCD will not let me just sort of sack something off and start something else. So I'm in it for the grind, and so it can be a bit frustrating. So I stream twice a week, which I know we're going to touch on later. And on stream, I'm playing Hollow Knight, which is absolutely fantastic. I can't think of enough praise for it. It's Metroidvania and just fantastic art style, challenging, and we have a great time sort of on stream with it. So I think I'm about 24% through, and I am going to go for the platinum on it. The hardest thing being there is a like a boss rush mode. I don't know if you know about that, and there's 5 pantheons of like they're called the pantheons of the gods, and the final pantheon is you have to beat 35 bosses in a row, no saves. I think there's some breaks and some healing, but yeah, like if you die on the second to last boss, that's it, straight back to the beginning. You got to work your way all the way through to the final boss again. So that's
how long does something like that take?
Well, I think looking at the trophy guide on PSN Profiles, I think the estimated time to platinum wasn't that long. It was something like 20 to 25 hours, but that is completely skill dependent, because it does make, there's like a disclaimer in the guide that if you follow this guide, it will take you 20 to 25 hours. However, if you are stuck on a boss, you could be practicing them for 2 or 3 hours to get the patterns down, to know what you're doing, so you can beat this sort of boss rush mode. So I think what I'm planning on doing is working my way through the game, leaving those trophies till last, obviously, and then I may sort of every so often dip in and do a boss rush stream, but I'll be practicing it in the background, because people aren't going to want to sit and watch me just practice the same boss for 3 hours. I can imagine that would be quite tedious, but then just every so often dip in and go, right, I've been practicing, this is where I am, and then I'll fail and scream and shout, everyone will laugh, and then we all go about our day and pick it back up the week after. So yeah, so that's the first game I've been playing.
Hang on a second. Just wait. No, come on. Just wait a second here.
Okay.
Estimated difficulty in this guide says 9 out of 10. Wow.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh
I mean, because I remember when the game came out, there'd been a lot of talk around sort of the game being really challenging, and it almost being people saying it's like a 2D Metroidvania version of Dark Souls. And I'll be honest, I've not seen a lot of that. There's been a couple of bosses which I've sort of come up against that have knocked me back a few times, but there's never been anything that I've just thought, how the hell am I going to do this? But I think a big part of that 9 out of 10 difficulty, is that boss rush mode that I mentioned. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Still quite a high percentage completion though. I think platinum trophy completion. I think it's rare. I don't think it's down as an ultra rare, despite that trophy.
Well, see, there's another good example of ultra rare trophies. Anyway, so that's fascinating. So I there was something I was going to. There's a trophy here that it just cracks me up. But I'm gonna. No, what I was going to ask is this the sort of game that as you progress, your character gets stronger, or do you sort of have everything at the start and you have to get better yourself?
Yeah. So little bit of both. So obviously, because it's a Metroidvania, you sort of start off, and as you go through, you'll unlock power-ups that make you able to access areas you couldn't previously access. So there's that element. And then you do get charms. So you have so many charm notches for your character, and there are different charm builds. So some that increase power, some that increase the amount of damage you can take, things like that. So there are power-ups there to help you. And I think the guide, I've not been following the guide, but the guide does make reference to like a boss build and an exploration build and stuff like that just makes the game makes those bosses just slightly easier. I don't know if I've stumbled across any of those builds. As I say, everything that I've come up against seems it's doable. It's definitely doable. So yeah, that's great.
Well, I don't think there's enough controllers in Australia for me to attempt that hand. That's insane. 9 out of 10 does not exist.
Are you a controller? Are you a controller thrower?
This is my favorite listener. This is my favorite here. Achieve this pure completion trophy. Achieve 112% game completion and finish the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't even make 12%. 112. Come on, that's ridiculous.
Absolutely. You're not 100% in the game. You're 112% in the game.
12% in the game. You know, if I could have platinum, obviously, listeners, there's no way I could with my skills, but if I could plat that game, that would probably severely improve my completion rate with 112%. I don't have anything like that. That's insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But no, jokes aside, I have heard that is a very good game. So yeah, that's fantastic.
Very much.
Yeah, good. What else?
So then the other thing that I'm playing sort of a bit casually, what I've actually started doing this week, which is sort of a what's the word I'm after? A symptom of having children is I've actually been setting my alarm half an hour early in the morning to get up before the kids get up. And I've been playing Gwent quite a lot, which is the card game from the Witcher series. But it's its own standalone free-to-play card game, CCG. And I mean, it's fantastic. Again, I can't say enough good stuff about it. I've not actually played The Witcher. I know 3 is on PS4, but again, I think it's quite a grind of a platinum trophy. So I've not dipped my toes in that, which is what put me off from the game, because I do like card games. I used to play Magic a bit in my teens. Obviously, I was the right age for the sort of Pokemon card game craze as well. So I grew up playing a lot of collectible card games, and I'd seen that Gwent was available, but having not played any of the Witcher games, I was like, well, I'm not invested in the world. I'm not gonna really gel with what's going on. But actually, I mean, I don't know what the characters are, and I don't really understand the names of the factions. Like, the names of the factions don't mean anything to me, but like mechanically and just like, it's just a really fun game. Like, I'd say if you've got any listeners that have seen it and thought, oh, I've not played The Witcher, I don't really know. If you like card games, give it a go. It's fantastic. And I get up sort of half an hour early in the morning, make myself a coffee while the house is completely quiet, and I'll have sort of 2 games of Gwent before I start my day, which is fantastic.
Yeah, there's actually a shortage of card sort of base games on the console, isn't there? So it's good to hear about one that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're a PC player, you've obviously got like Hearthstone, or well, that's on mobile as well. And Magic Arena's on PC, and what's that one? Is it an Elder Scrolls one or something that's meant to be dreadful? I can't remember. There's another one. I forget. I don't know. But console-wise, it's literally the only one, which is why I was looking at it like, oh, I want to give that a go, but I'm just not going to understand what the hell's going on. But actually, you don't need any prior Witcher knowledge to sort of jump into it. It's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I've been playing that. And then the only other thing then, which is, I mean, that sounds like a lot of games already to me. But I personally, if I then get a night where I'm not streaming, but I'm on the PlayStation, I'm playing Wild Arms 3. So that's a remaster. Well, I don't even know if it's a remaster or just a port, but I know it is a remaster, actually. I remember seeing some comparison videos. So it's a remaster of the PS2 version of Wild Arms 3. I don't know if you've played any of the Wild Arms series, CJ, or?
No, not myself, no.
No. Oh, no, JRPG, so possibly not. But it's Wild Arms 1 was one of my favourite games, sort of teenage years, on the original PS1. It's actually on the PS1 Classic as well, which, as that thing sold like absolute garbage, the price has dropped quite considerably. I think it's about £30 now, so it's getting towards that point where I'm like, £30 to have a copy of Wild Arms is actually, like, I'd pay that just for that. So even if the rest of it has no interest, that could be quite good. So I sort of bought it in a sale on PlayStation and thought, I'll give it a go based on my love of Wild Arms 1. And it's good. It's good. The problem being, I jumped into it and as I say, I'd sort of 5 hours in realised, this is going to be like an 80-hour platinum. And when I'm sort of streaming 2 nights a week, I think I'll maybe play this game 3-4 hours a week. So, extrapolating that out, I'm going to be on this for months basically. So it's a bit of a grind. Good game, but it's not conducive to playing a JRPG with kids. Definitely not. So
Yeah.
that's it. So I don't even think I've got a trophy in that this week actually, because the trophies are so few and far between. It just takes you forever.
It's a good game though that you sort of jump in and out of. Then, like you're sort of doing, like it holds.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, I'm following a guide with it as well, just to make sure I'm sort of going through the most efficient way, because an 80-hour platinum can easily be 120 hours if you don't know what you're doing or where you're going and things like that. So I'm following a guide to help me along, but it's great fun, and I am enjoying it. It's just I'm going to be with it for a while, I think.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you? What have you been playing?
Well, just before we get to that, see, listeners, this is what I like about trophy hunters. Yeah, see, like we couldn't be more opposed, could we? Myself and Folly. Look at these games, like they're fantastic games that he's playing. Deep systems, deep game. And then I'm just like scrolling down his list here, and I see his 10th platinum is My Name Is Mayo. And I think we are very similar, aren't we? We are similar. Is there a story behind that? Did you just did it, or?
Do you know what? Actually, no, there is. So the reason is I think if you the one underneath My Name Is Mayo, if you scroll down my trophy list, is a game called Drowning, which is it's a very quick plat if anyone fancies giving it a go. Walking sim, but it's basically dealing with your character is walking through a field, and it basically he's walking and these messages come up, and it's actually about someone dealing with anxiety and depression. So I gave it a go on recommendation from others that just you should give this a go. It's really simple, but it can be quite moving and things like that, especially if you can sympathize with it, or someone who's gone through those sorts of things. So it was like a Saturday morning. I think the kids had stayed at their grandparents, and I because I'm used to being woken up at 6 a.m. every morning. I wake up at 6 a.m. regardless. Like, it just does not matter whether there's noise in the house or not. So I sort of woke up at 6 a.m. My fiance was still asleep, so I thought, all right, I'll go downstairs, and I put Drowning on and played it, and it was really good. I think I platinumed it in I can't remember, like 45 minutes, an hour, something like that. But it was really good, really enjoyed it, quite moving. And I finished it, and I just thought, oh God, I feel exhausted. I don't know if I've got it in me to play anything else, and sort of I just need to do something mindless. And I'd heard about the legend that is My Name Is Mayo, and I thought I can tap a jar of mayo 10,000 times, definitely. Like that'd ease some of this internal monologue that's going on in my head. So bought that, played that, and platinumed that straight after, which is the reason that I think those are the two sort of games that, like, those 1 hour plats, they're the only two that I've got on my profile, and they actually came within sort of an hour of each other, because I just needed to zone out for a while after Drowning. It was a bit of a ride.
Yeah. I thought there might be a story there. You're right. I've played Drowning as well. I think it is fantastic. I do love games like that really do touch you, and I know what you mean. There are certain games. What did we do recently? Edith Finch as well, where you almost they're just too much. You just have to stop and take time and
absolutely.
and so I can understand it. And I mean, also, My Name Is Mayo is a rite of passage, so you've got to stamp your card with that at some point.
Absolutely.
So you are clear. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, look,
absolutely.
I like that. Yeah, it's interesting what you find, isn't it, when you scroll down?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was buried deep enough you wouldn't find it, but you've come.
I found Dat Siegel's one ultra rare trophy, so I'll find it. I'm like a truffle pig for spam games, I think.
Like a bloodhound, trophy bloodhound.
That's right. I zone in. I see nothing else. Yes. I don't know. Oh, that's fantastic. So, look, listeners, I'm going to do some forward projection on what I have played in the last week. See, we're slightly recording ahead, and I'll I'll throw in a couple of things. The first one I'll throw in is, and I know I talked about this briefly in last episode, is this Box VR. So the boxing, literally the boxing sort of workout, if you like, VR game. So I'm actually really, really enjoying this. I suppose we call it a game. experience or whatever you like
Yeah.
game. I think it's fantastic. It's definitely, I think, the best. I mean, if there is such thing as a fitness game on console, I think it's the best one that I've played so far. And just as I said, to further the tracks, I've been playing around a little bit more with the tracks, and there are a lot of tracks. I think we've got over 30 different music tracks and workouts preset. And what I really like too is that you can just link the tracks together, and they're all pre-sequenced or choreographed, if you like, with the boxing moves. So you can, in effect, I did another one at an hour. I thought that would have killed me the time before, but I did it again, and it was fantastic. The other reason I particularly like this game is my partner has this. My partner is not a gamer at all, and he has this very bad habit of thinking it's hilarious to sort of attack me when I'm in the VR set, like to push me or to throw something at me or whatever else. So I usually bar the door in the room that I play in so that I know I'm by myself. But now this game, he stays further away because the arms. I tend to be like a human octopus when I play VR. The arms are flying everywhere, so he's now worried, I think, that I'm going to make connection there, and I'm getting better at it. So, I'm determined. That is my goal with that game. But as I said last time when we talked about it, it's only like a half price sort of game, I suppose, which makes it, I suppose, pricey on the VR game side because they usually are of that sort of ilk. But it's definitely worth a look. And I know there isn't a lot of information about it, so hopefully I've thrown some out there for you to consider.
CJ, sorry if I can ask. So what are the trophies like on it? Are the trophies tied to like each workout, or are they sort of like do 10,000 punches, or how does it work?
Yeah, so I mean, the trophy list will just come from natural attrition, I think, of just playing the game. So there's nothing difficult there. Probably, perhaps I mean, again, depending on sort of. But potentially maybe the hardest one is that you have to burn 1,000 calories in a day. So sort of referencing this last time. Right. So it's not, obviously if you're at the gym boxing, you're going to burn, a higher rate of calories because you're making contact with the bag as well and the resistance. With this, it's just the air. So it is a lot lower. And that was one thing that, I mean, who knows if the track is 100% correct. It probably isn't. But I think in an hour sort of workout with this thing, which definitely builds a sweat, I think I burnt like maybe 700 calories, which is pretty low, I think, for an hour. So it gives you a sort of idea. So, I mean, to do the 1,000, I suppose you'd be looking at maybe an hour and a half workout continuous. But I mean, you could do that in 24 hours. So you wouldn't have to do it straight if you didn't want to. I suppose that's the most committed the trophies get. The rest, everything else is just, I mean, you have to hit 10 workouts where you don't miss a cue, but there are more than 10 workouts that are under 5 minutes. So, that is definitely doable. And then the 500 in a row. I mean, again, I suppose it depends on how good how lucky you are with your setup, whether it's always picking up, your movements or not within the system itself. But if you get that sort of setup, and it takes a little bit of a jiggling, I found that the hook and the jab, it's not exactly how you would probably do that if you're at the gym with a bag, but you can work it in such a way so you can figure it out. It's not crazy. So, and I see there's quite a few people already have the platform from the number of owners, so that's fine. Look, I think there's a chance I will plat that game. So if I can do it, anyone can. I'm sure of it. So look, that is my VR tip of the week. And the great thing is because you're fixed, there's no motion sickness. No motion sickness for me. So which is so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that. So then, I of course, listeners, I tried a few of the little spams. I finally forayed back onto the German PSN store because look, why not? Can't speak German, but that shouldn't stop me. And I found I've been looking for this game for a while, listeners. So it depends, I suppose, how trophy whore you are if you even know this game exists. But we had the wonderful Windstorm horse game 2 years ago, I believe, based on the German television show Windstorm, which is lovely about a young teenage girl riding her horse everywhere. And of course, the first game had no story at all. It was just a collectible-a-thon of just walking around picking up all these collectibles that were not marked on the map, like 400, which is game devs. That's not fun for anyone. But anyway, that was what was required. So this next one, it does have a full story. It actually plays like a VN actually. So you a lot of reading, but it's sort of voiced or whatever else. And then there's a smaller collectible-a-thon at the end. So look, that is quite fun. I mean, again, if you like those sort of no-brainer type games or whatever else. Yeah, there is no skip in that game either, VN lovers. So you will be reading it or letting it play naturally if that sort of disgusting behavior excites you in any way, be forewarned. See, I'm probably shocking you there, Folly. You wouldn't participate in such
No,
disgusting behavior.
I can relate. I can relate.
Yeah, good. And then I was going to. Oh, now this one, it doesn't appear on my list because unfortunately the trophies are not syncing yet, and it's called Another Sight. This is a game that is coming out, I believe, possibly towards the end of July. End of June, I should say, or early July on the EU and NA store. But it is currently available on the Asian store, I think for around 100 Hong Kong or something, so which is basically nothing in conversion. And this is a really cool little platformer puzzler indie game where you play as a girl who is sort of trying to figure out, I suppose, what's going on. And it's set actually in London as well, which is lovely. It's mainly in the sewers, actually, of London.
Okay.
But you do get out eventually. And so the gimmick of this game is that you're not blind, but you're in effect blind because you're in total darkness. So you can't really see anything, but you have this cat character as well. So you can switch between the two characters, and obviously the cat has very good eyesight. So the cat can see in the dark. So when you're playing as the cat, everything's lit up. So you can see, the background and what's going on. When you switch back to the girl, you can see nothing. So you're sort of, backwards and forwards a little bit with the platforming just to see where things are and the puzzles and stuff. So it's a really cute game. And again, for a very small developer, I think it's a fantastic effort. So the music in this game is very, very good. The animation is really, really good. Just it always amazes me with some of these games from small devs, like how much they get out of the console, on such a small budget. And
Absolutely.
And then then you look at, I don't know, some AAA stuff, and you just wonder what's going on. So I don't know, but it's a game that I would recommend to have a look. Now, it does not have a plat, if that concerns you. It is only a 100% game, and it's around a 4 to 5 hour experience. Yeah, and the story is good. I'm about 3/4 of the way through, and yeah, I don't want to say too much because it literally, what she's looking for, it's a bit of a twist as well. So if you like, sort of independent and sort of on the edgy sort of games, I would recommend that. Yeah. So look, I think that's enough of what I've been playing. Yeah. Oh no, there's one more. How could I forget? The Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And I wanted to mention this because you are a bit of an Assassin's player, or liker, aren't you, Folly? Is that a goal to one day play more?
So I've played. I played the first two, and again, apologies, listeners. I think I played them on Xbox, and it was a dark time. And then I sort of fell out of the series after that, and I've purchased Origins now for PS4, but it's in the backlog. So I fluctuate between what I'm planning to play next on a sort of daily basis, because I'm always thinking about it. But it's quite high towards the top of the list because I do want to give it a go with a view to then give Odyssey a go. Because I mean, there's so much praise out there for Odyssey that I'm really excited to give it a go. So Origins is in the backlog for now, but Odyssey will probably be added shortly after, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Origins is a very good game, I think. I think you will enjoy it. And I think it's a manageable game. I'm not sure with Odyssey. I sort of, full disclosure, listeners, I played this on the Xbox first too for about 20 hours before deciding to dump that and do play it on the console, on the PC, on the PS4, I should say. Yeah. Excuse me, my goodness, that's it. Master Race coming back at me again. So it's such a big game. So look, I'm not intimidated by big games because I usually don't finish them anyway. So it's not an issue for me. But it's one of those games, and I know it's been out for a while, so many who have played it will already be familiar with this. But it's one of these games where even just in the first area, I think I spent 4 hours, and then the opening credits roll 4 hours into the game, and that just gives you an idea of how big this game is going to be, and which I think is fantastic. Like, I love to get lost in that sort of thing.
Yeah,
but Odyssey by name, but Odyssey definitely. It's going to be a mammoth journey. Maybe it'll be a 10-year journey. Maybe I'll be like Homer. At least he completed his journey. I don't know. But look, it's great. And the other advantage, and you'll find this too when you get to the previous one, is that by waiting a little bit, most of the DLC is out then for the game. So these games, that you don't have to play the DLC at the end. They sort of fit nicely in the middle of the game, I think, with your character once it's leveled up a bit. So having that as well, I think is a nice experience. So that's a little different for me because I usually just race in and smash it at the start. So yeah, having the option to play everything, I think, and just to pick at
Yeah.
it is great. So I'm reasonably committed to finishing that, but we'll see with Final Fantasy 14 expansion next month how much that actually happens. I don't know. I like the idea of that platinum, though. It would be lovely.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I think it tells a fantastic story. So,
Oh, yes.
I mean, you get the nice shiny trophy at the end as well, which is what I would think everyone listening is in it for. But if it can tell you a great story and it can be fun along the way as well, then that's perfect. The problem is it will take you about 60, 70 hours to get there, which there are games out there that you can get a shiny platinum for 20 minutes work. So, but it's good.
It is good. And look, I mean, to pick out, we're joking again, but with the story, one thing that, I mean, Assassin's Creed has moved unbelievably so far ahead in the last, 5 or so years in the franchise. But playing, I play a reasonable number of JRPGs, and you just get used to the fetch quest grind sort of thing of doing that. And also a lot of trivial writing that's not very deep outside of the main story often. And one thing I like about this Odyssey, and as I said, I've only maybe put in 5 hours on the PS4, but over 20 on the Xbox. And the quests, like they have the side quests have value. There's some great writing in there and some really deep stuff as well. And I mean, there's a little gender fluidity in it as well, or whatever, which make of it whatever you wish. But it's there's a lot of depth in there if you want to engage with it outside of the main story, which I think is great. Yeah, I enjoy that. So
absolutely,
it's good. It's a good game. These Ubisoft, they know what they're doing.
Did they patch out the ending of the DLC, by the way, that caused all that controversy?
Oh yes, where it didn't matter your decision. I believe they did. Yes.
Yeah, because that was quite good. So that they sort of retrospectively went back and changed those decisions. So it was I mean, Ubisoft seem pretty clued up with that sort of stuff, and it's good to see that there's big games companies out there holding their hands up and saying, okay, yeah, we made a mistake. Maybe we were a little bit insensitive, or maybe we basically undid all of the decisions you made during the game by this one action. We hold our hands up and they change it. You know what I mean? It's not a tough situation. So that's good. I mean, they've earned a lot of goodwill by doing that sort of thing.
Yes, yeah. It's a really tough line because with games, obviously, they have to funnel the players to a certain progression point to get to the same ending. But I agree with you. I think that because the game does play where decisions you make, you make a decision one way or the other in quests throughout the game. So it is good that was adjusted, and I believe that was from some pressure, some lobbying as well behind that. So that's a good story. But look, if you're sitting on the fence with that game, maybe you're also sitting on the fence with Red Dead Redemption 2 and a couple of the other beasts, deciding which one to play. I think it's a great one to dip in and out of too. I think long term, I don't think it's the controls are so easy that you can pick them up in 2 minutes. So it doesn't matter if you're playing it over a long period of time, which I definitely will be, I'm sure. we shall see. Well, there's hopefully, listeners, there has not been another Assassin's Creed announced. I mean, it's not supposed to be for this year, so hopefully we've got at least a year before we need to get that. So fascinating, yeah. So good. Why don't we move across now? This, listeners, as you know, I have very limited information, although I've picked up a little bit about how streaming works over the time. Now, Folly, you are a streamer. That is correct.
I am, yes, I am.
So
yes, fairly recent. I started back in March, so I'm a baby streamer, I would say.
So what possessed you to want to stream?
I don't know really. I think part of it was a bit of curiosity. I mean, the thing is, it's so easy because all the functionality is built into the PS4, so it's literally just a matter of hitting the share button and diving in. You can literally be streaming. If you've got a Twitch account, you link it to your PlayStation, and there you go. There's your first stream. Like it's so straightforward to take those first steps. And I don't know. I think basically getting back into video games as I have over the last sort of 12 months, coming up to 12 months, I sort of was toying with the idea of, well, what do I want to get out of this hobby? Do I just want it to be something that I just do and I consume, or do I want to create anything as well? And I mean, a little bit more background about me. my day job is I'm an accountant. So I mean, like literally.
Oh, my commiserations to you. How unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. If you ask a comedian to write a joke about someone who is boring, that person is an accountant. Like fact, it's the go-to boring job.
But we joke, but a very important job. My
Uh,
accountant is one of the most important people in my life.
well, good. I'm glad you appreciate it. I hope he
Oh,
knows.
very, very much so. He is a wizard at times.
So yeah, so I'm an accountant, and I left school with sort of just sort of basic qualifications, and I did an apprenticeship, and I've sort of worked up to where I am now, and I've got my sort of my chartered certification, so I'm officially a chartered accountant, and like that's great, but I'd be lying if I said it was the job I dreamed I'd be doing as a kid, obviously, and so I sort of thought, well, if I've got a hobby like video games that I am very passionate about, do I want to just consume the media, or do I want to try and create something? And I especially with having kids as well, what sort of example am I setting to them? So do they want to remember their dad as someone who just got up in the morning, went to work, came home, put us to bed, got up in the morning, went to work? Or did they want to see me as someone who tried to do things and was proactive and maybe a little bit creative? So I sort of toyed with different ideas, and at first I thought maybe starting like a video game blog, writing about things that are happening and coming out and things like that, because I was always quite interested in English at school. But I sort of, as I was running that through my mind, I thought, well, actually, think about it. Time is very limited having children, so I need to, not only do I need to play the games, I then need to carve the time out to actually be able to write about the games while still being an effective father and an effective partner to my fiance and things like that. So actually, I'm giving myself more to do. And if I'm trying to use video games as a way to de-stress by piling more into my day to get done, I'm just going to be increasing that stress. And the same sort of was for if I was creating YouTube videos or doing those sorts of things as well. So the streaming just seemed a sort of easy and an easier thing to do, in that, and not that streaming is easy. Obviously there are a lot of very talented people out there doing a lot, but for the way that I'm doing it currently, literally hitting a button on PlayStation and talking to people and playing games, it combines it. So I'm doing the creating while I'm also playing the game. So it's two birds, one stone, without having to game and then find time to create. So so that was the main draw to start with for streaming.
Just to pull you up there though, because see, I think you sell yourself short a little bit there, because like obviously there's much skill, in writing, in whatever, talking talking randomly like we are, or whatever else. But all this is like, it's happening within the moment. But then you can edit, you can, with writing, you can go back, you can revise. But with something like streaming, it's one to one, isn't it? Like it's real time in effect. You're
Oh yeah, absolutely, which is where I sort of, I think I said before we started recording, I'm a very sweary person. So I think I've kept it fairly clean up till now, 55 minutes in. But normally, I mean, the stream is dreadful, which is ridiculous, because I always want to sit and watch streams with the boys. If there's like Spider-Man, for instance, they all saw the trailers for the Spider-Man game and thought, oh, this looks amazing, this looks great, but we don't own it. So I thought, oh, we could literally put a Spider-Man stream on and watch someone playing it. But I don't know if that person's going to just start swearing all of a sudden, and what the content's going to be like. So so I'm always like, oh, why can't streamers monitor their language? There might be someone watching with children. But then as soon as I'm on, that's it. It's F this, F that, that was this, that was that. And so I'm just as bad as everyone else. I can't, I just can't mute myself, unfortunately. So yeah.
Do you see, this is what fascinates me with streamers. So do you ever feel like, because obviously you're reacting to the chat, and from what Unknown tells me, you need to talk a lot of the time as well,
Yeah.
Or that's part of streaming or whatever. So do you ever find like you just you just don't know what to say, or you're just like, oh, I don't, how does that sort of all go?
So, well, I'm quite lucky in that I've got regulars that drop by the stream. So I say drop by, like in some instances sit and watch the whole thing, which I won't start naming people, because ultimately what will happen is I will forget someone and upset someone, and there's literally anyone who drops by the stream at any point, thank you immensely for spending any time with me. I have a great time. I've got a few people who are regulars. One of my friends, actually, it's become a bit of a regular Sunday routine. So he and his girlfriend, they aren't gamers. They're not video gamers. They don't play video games, but they do like a board game and things like that. So it's actually become like a regular Sunday thing that they will order a takeaway and sit and watch my stream, and that's their Sunday evening. They'll put my stream on with a curry or a Chinese, and that's their Sunday night entertainment, rather than watching Netflix or whatever. Which, I mean, I'm just so grateful. I tell him weekly, thanks again for stopping by. Like, really appreciate it. So it helps that I've got people there to sort of react to and things like that. Also, I mean, I'm quite used to thinking out loud a lot, so I will just talk of, right, I'm going to go here, or I'm going to do that, or X, Y, Z. So there's a fair bit of talking, and if it drops a bit quiet, as I say, I've got my friends there who drop in and drop me a message, tell me I'm doing something wrong, or laugh at me because I've just died, or whatever it is, and then we can react and do what needs to be done. So it's a really good time. I don't ever think streaming's going to be a full-time occupation. I don't think I could ever get to a level where it's full-time occupation. I was trying to sort of think of what should be my unique selling point with streaming, because a lot of people have that sort of, they either stream types of games, or they're speed runners, or those sorts of things. And I was like, well, what's going to make people come to my stream, and what do I want to get from the stream? And really going back to thinking about growing up with gaming, my big experience with gaming, because obviously when I was gaming PS1 era and stuff like that, there was no online gaming. It was literally me and 6 friends crammed in a bedroom with the curtains shut, playing games, whether that's cooperatively or against each other, or even if it's a single player game, one of us playing and the others just shouting ideas and chatting and doing whatever. So I got lots of fond memories of growing up with video games, of literally just me and 8 others sat in a room staring at a screen playing and having a great time. And I try and capture that in my stream, in that I want my stream to basically just be a really chill place that reminds you of a simpler time when you were a teenager and you just get together with friends and play games and hang out. And that helps me a lot in my life. That, as I say, as you being an adult and the responsibilities and the pressures that come with being an adult, I almost feel like I've captured that again, that I get to sit down with friends in a chat and just hang out and play video games, which is fantastic.
That is a really great way to put it. I really like that. Yeah. I think no matter what sort of hobbies you do, you have to do it like that, don't you, for yourself? And like, whatever happens around that happens.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, that's a really lovely way to perceive it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the time, and I don't know if any listeners can relate to this, but a lot of the time with me, a big thing that holds me back is, well, I'm not going to be the best at that, so what's the point? Which is a ridiculous, but there can only be one person in the world that is the best at something. So I toyed with the idea of streaming and thinking about streaming, but my point was, well, I'm never going to do it as a living. I'm never going to get 40,000 subscribers and earn millions. So why bother? And then I sort of thought about it a bit more and was like, well, hang on, like this, you don't progress anywhere by just doing things the same way. So the stream will not ever be a source of income from me, I don't believe. But I've been doing it 3 months, and I'm on a podcast with you, CJ, which is honestly incredibly exciting. This would be a Saturday where I'm normally, just doing the shopping, doing some ironing, running the Hoover around, things like that, and I'm recording a podcast, which is completely new for me. And as an adult, you rarely get to do something for the first time as an adult. So streaming has opened doors, and it's made me able to connect with a lot of cool people and do some things that I've never thought I'd be able to do. So it's great.
Yeah, that's a very good point as well. I mean, listeners, as is, like I'm some people that know me or whatever know my background, but we started this podcast for exactly the same reason, to be honest with you, just to speak to people. And I love to speak to people. Most people like to speak to me once, and that's enough for them. But look, I love it, and I think it's exactly what you say. Like as an adult, like you do just do the same things all the time, and there comfortable or whatever else, but putting yourself out there a bit and just trying something new is very rewarding, isn't it? So
Yeah,
I do like
absolutely.
that. So I mean, there's a lot of positives. Is there anything you dislike about streaming? Is there any
I
negatives?
think. Well, I actually I don't think there are any negatives with streaming. I'm yet to encounter, and I probably run the risk by saying this on a podcast that's then going to be put out there. But I'm yet to have anything negative in happen on my stream. So I've not had to ban anyone, or I've not had any idiots, pop in and try and ruin things. I've had a couple of people drop in before, like especially with Hollow Knight, because it's a very beloved game within the community. There are a lot of people
Yeah.
that game means a lot to, and I've had people drop in and sort of they've been helpful, but with that tinge of, oh my god, did you not realize, or you really shouldn't be dying to this guy, like that sort of thing. And I sort of take it with a grain of salt. And like that's the thing, a big part of growing up with video games is friends laughing when you fail and stuff like that. And there are, again, not mentioning names, there are certain people in my chat who, if I die to a boss, they have a great time ripping me about what I could have done differently, things like that. And we have a great time. But when it's someone that you maybe don't have that rapport with, you just think, well, hang on, mate, we're just having a laugh. Let's not worry about it. But each to their own. Some people's skill levels are higher than others, and that's fine.
I totally agree with that. Do you ever get frustrated? Like, do you ever get performance anxiety with streaming?
No,
Is that a thing?
The closest I've ever come to that was actually my first stream. So Hollow Knight is actually the third game I've streamed, because as I say, I've only been streaming since March. And before Hollow Knight, I streamed Soma, which I don't know if you've played that, CJ, at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like absolutely fantastic. Like I loved it. The only thing was I'm a massive coward. Hate horror films. Hate anything remotely scary. Really struggle. So I put a poll out on Twitter about what I should be playing next, and it was basically a small group of friends hijacked it and made sure that I was playing Soma. So there's clips of me screaming and yelping as I go through that. I've thoroughly embarrassed myself playing it, but that was fantastic. And then before that, the first game I streamed was Hotline Miami, which really enjoyed. Absolutely fantastic. I did actually get the platinum for it. I think that was my last platinum. I got it a month or so ago, but I didn't do that on stream. I just played through the main story on stream, mainly because the community that I've got at the moment, the sort of 6 or 7 regulars that drop by, not all of them are trophy hunters. Not all of them are even really, I think, would class themselves as gamers. They're not big in their video games. So it was like, well, chasing a platinum is not something that's going to appeal to them. They just want to be taken through a story and have a good time. So I got the platinum after finishing it on stream, but literally I went into that game completely blind, and I thought, I'm not going to practice it beforehand. I'm not going to sanitize the experience. I'm literally just going to press share, jump in, and we'll go. So I'd messaged a few friends like, look, I'm going to be streaming, so I'm not streaming to no one. Can you please, would you be able to spare me a couple of hours to watch me? And they were like overwhelming support. I think I got five or six of my friends were like, yeah, absolutely, we'll drop by. So they dropped by, went through, and I think I was on the first level for about 30 minutes. It was so hard, and I kept dying at the same bit over and over and over again. And literally, the guys were just completely ripping me apart in chat, just like, did you not think to practice this? Before you went out and put this out into the world, why the hell? My mate was like, I would have literally done the first level 10 times before I even thought about doing it on the internet, sort of thing. And I was really close, sort of towards the end of that half an hour. I was really close to thinking, you know what, I'm going to put something else on, or I'm going to say, right, this isn't working. I'll see you next week. We'll do something else, because I was getting anxiety about how entertaining it was, and what have I let myself in for? Why didn't I pick something that I was a bit more comfortable with? So, but I stuck with it, and I mean, the point of that game is you die a lot anyway. You're just going to, but the nature of the game itself, you're going to die countless times while you figure it out. And I sort of stuck with it, and I mean, by the end, I was fairly competent at it, and as I say, I got the platinum, so I got there in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's a very honest approach. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I could never stream. The language would be appalling, and it's just the.
Oh, mine is honestly. I'm one of those people. I am trying to get better, but and I do have a certain filter, because obviously having the boys, I don't swear.
Yes.
During daylight hours, let's say. But like I'm one of those people that I will use swear words as punctuation. Like they don't even need to fit in the sentence. If I'm trying to think of the next thing to say, I will be using those rather than more
Yeah.
I'll be using foul language. So it's the streams are dreadful for that. They really are.
Yeah, look, that's great. Yeah, look, well, I feel like we're very, very rapidly approaching the topic in our direction. So I did change the order on you slightly. I do apologize for that, but I thought that would
No,
be
that's fine.
interesting to run through. So what we'll do, listeners, now is we're just going to drop in some of the new releases before we hit the topic, just to break it up a little bit for you. So again, we're putting this together slightly early, so we're not sure what will drop around this, but we do know for sure these games are coming out. So why don't we kick off? Would you like to pick one and just sort of start us off there, Folly?
Yeah, so sort of at the top of the list, we've got Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which is play as Miriam, an orphan scarred by an alchemist's curse, which slowly crystallizes her body. To save humanity and herself in the process, Miriam must fight through the castle and defeat the summoner, Gebel, I think that's how you pronounce that, and collect, craft, and unlock a vast array of weapons, equipment, and loot to defeat the countless minions and bosses of hell that await. So it sounds like there's a lot going on. Does this do anything for you, CJ?
Well, look, my co-host Mindy would be all over this, and I'm sure she will be. So what have I learned about this? It was crowdfunded, I think, as well, or something. So look, I know people have been looking forward to this, but
it actually so it's developed by I think the original developer is a company called Artplay, and the founder of Artplay, I don't know if that's the right term, is a guy called I've got it written here. Pardon my pronunciation. Koji Igarashi, I think, he was actually the lead producer on the Castlevania series for a few years. So obviously, it's very much the spiritual successor to the Metroidvania style Castlevania games, and I know a lot of people are excited about this. I had it on my list of possible games to stream because I'm trying to stream some newer games, so you get people dropping by who want to check it out before they buy it. Having been in the middle of Hollow Knight now, I don't really want to do two Metroidvanias back to back. I think that I might burn out a little bit. But the one thing I do like about this game is, have you seen the trailer by any chance for this game?
No, I haven't. No.
So it's quite cool to have a look at because you were right. It was kickstarted, and it was kickstarted massively. I think it raised something like, I think the target was $500,000, and I think it hit that within 4 hours. And then I think it ended up going to raise like $5.5 million or something like that. And basically, I think a while ago now, they did like a backer update where they showed gameplay, and the overwhelming response was, this game looks like it plays great, but the art style is absolutely dreadful. And there was a lot of sort of backlash about it, and the backers weren't happy about how the game looked. So the trailer is actually, it starts off and it's that original footage again. And then just as you think, oh God, they've not changed anything, this still looks dreadful, little tweets start popping up or like little comments from all the people that had slammed the game saying, oh, this looks trash. And then all of a sudden, it's really surreal. It cuts to like a long sort of banquet table, like you would see in a Castlevania game. This guy Koji is sat at the end with a goblet of red wine, and it sort of zooms into him, and he shouts in Japanese, I will prove them wrong, and throws the glass. And then all of a sudden, the trailer kicks in properly, and it's showing the old footage and then the same footage, but with the new graphics side by side. And sort of the new art style, and it's sort of it was quite a good way of showing, okay, this is what we've done, and we heard your complaints, and this is what we've done to combat it. And it's really over the top, really ridiculous. So I did like that element of it, definitely.
I'm definitely going to have to look at that trailer now. That's fantastic. Yeah,
it's cool. It is cool.
It's great. Yeah. See, my problem is that before we started this, I didn't even know what a Metroidvania was, and I like saying the word Metroidvania. I have no interest in it. It's a great word. It really is. But my hang up, and I've tried a couple since we started this, but my hang up is that I need Siri to navigate me even to the local shopping center here. So there's no way I can deal with the map situation in those Metroidvanias. It's too much for a simple man, So, but
no, I'm with you.
I think I think the problem with these games are, and I'm fully happy to admit it, the games are being dumbed down. Obviously, the newer games are so much easier than the older games. And I think if you didn't grow up sort of playing some of these Metroidvania style games, they're just hard to get into, I think. If you never played them before.
Yeah.
So.
No,
But look, I know it's supposed to be
I can-
fantastic. So, listeners, I'm sure if that does interest you, you'll jump on it. Let's have a look. We've got some PSVR coming this week, some Mini Mech Mayhem. That just, yeah. Okay. I'm not even going to read that one because I'm getting tired of those sort of games, but I am going to read the next one, Vacation Simulator, from the Job Simulator people. So look, the Job Simulator was fantastic. I'm sure this will be too. Let's see what it says. It says here, visit the vibrant world of Vacation Island and make real memories of a simulated vacation. So you never even have to leave your house at all now. It's just great. Anyway, explore activity-rich destinations filled with colourful casts of bots and endless interactions to approximate recreation. Reallocate your bandwidth and get ready to splash s'more. See, that's an Americanism there. Snowball and selfie your way to optimal relaxation. I tell you what, that is not the easiest thing to read at 11:30 at night. Look, some of those words there, I love it when they do that. They're set to think. But that game does look fantastic. I know you don't play VR yourself, Folly, but Job Simulator was awesome, and I'm sure that will be as well.
Yeah, no, I must admit, I think I don't currently have a VR. It's something I do want to invest in a bit in the future because there's so much cool stuff coming out, and I not playing it is not because I don't want to, but it's just currently I don't own one. But I was looking at a bit of Vacation Simulator last night, and it did look very good. Very, very good.
Well, if you do end up buying a VR, make sure you also get the throw-up bucket to go with it because they go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's going to be the problem. Yes. That's going to be the problem.
Yeah, good. Have you got another one for us there from the list?
So the next one I've got is Judgment, which I know a lot of people are excited about. So from the team that brought you the critically acclaimed Yakuza series comes Judgment, a gritty tale of disgraced attorney Takayuki Yagami, I think that's how you say that, in his quest for redemption. Haunted by his past, he takes up arms as a private detective, clawing his way through Kamurocho's underground crime network to investigate a string of grisly murders. In the psychological thriller, the balance between justice and mercy teeters on the edge. Is this one that you might get involved in,
well,
CJ?
This one interests me on multiple levels because this is the game where the central actor or one of the actors came up on drug charges in Japan recently as well.
Yeah, I don't think it wasn't the head actor, but it was one of the characters. Like, yes. It was someone who had, I think, a considerable part in the movie.
Yeah.
He got accused of cocaine use.
That's right. Yeah.
Which, I mean, I'm sure to a Western audience just seems bizarre. It's like so like it just doesn't matter if you're a celebrity in a Western society. But obviously they take this stuff very seriously in Japan, and he's literally disgraced. I mean, that's the accusation is so strong that the crime is so strong that even the accusation means he's disgraced. Like, even if eventually there isn't enough evidence to convict, it's just
yes.
His career is effectively tarnished forever just from this accusation. I mean, and this isn't even an accusation. This isn't a being caught with cocaine, I don't think, or anything like that. This is literally an accusation that he has done it, which is, I shouldn't say this is crazy because it's only crazy from a Western perspective. From an Eastern perspective, it's perfectly logical, and there's no saying which is right or wrong, obviously. But so they literally had to completely mocap and voice record a new character to patch this person out of the game, essentially.
Yeah. I find that crazy. See, this is the Kingdom Hearts 3 thing. The Olaf, is that we say the guy? Anyway, the Snowman dude, he was for a similar thing. Now, they had to redo that whole part in the game. They replaced him completely, the voice actor.
Crazy.
Unfortunately, they didn't fix up Donald Duck while they were at it, but they unfortunately they kept the rest of the game.
I mean, I'm wondering as well, because obviously, because the Yakuza and the Judgment series is Sega, do you think that the guys who are making that Sonic film are going to use that team to completely redo the Sonic model as well? Because they were pretty quick to go, okay, we'll change it. They must know that they can just get these guys to smash it out in like a few months by the looks of things. They've got a lot of practice with it now, I think.
I tell you what, speaking of things that terrify you, the new Sonic, oh my goodness. that is shocking. Yeah, look, have you ever played a Yakuza game? or do you have any
So
experience?
yeah, I have. Well, Yakuza Kiwami was free, I think, like last November on PS Plus. So I got it. I got it then, and I started it this year, and I sort of struggled with it quite a lot, which I think I built it up a bit too much in my head because I know it's a very it has quite a strong cult following. So I bigged it up that this is going to be amazing. I'm going to absolutely love this, and then it was okay. It is I mean, there is a lot of debates that go on about where you should start with the Yakuza series because Yakuza Kiwami is the remake of the original Yakuza game, but it's still there are still some mechanics in there that make it feel like a PS2 game. Whereas Yakuza Zero is, I think that came out before 6. In fact, yeah, it did. It came out before 6, but it's a prequel. So you can essentially play that one first as an introduction to the series, but it has all the comfort of life and all the polish of 6, so it's a much better jumping on place. So I did struggle with it a bit, and I mean the platinum is crazy. There's a lot of mini games in Yakuza games, which I know is part of the appeal, but some of the trophies are purely like RNG based. Like you're just playing blackjack against a computer, you're playing roulette against a computer, and it's like, well, what am I doing this for? I mean, to get the completion, I would have had to have learned how to play mahjong, which I was just like literally. I even went as far as I found an app on my phone that taught me how to play, and not there is a version of mahjong that's quite popular that's essentially like a matching game, but this mahjong is the mahjong you play against other people. And I downloaded an app to try and teach me how to play the game because the tutorial in the game's no good. And it was, I just couldn't do it. And I just thought, you know what, I'm back to my time is precious. Do I really want to be here for the next 6 months playing just Yakuza? And I was like, you know what, no, I don't. And I moved on. That game beat me. I just could not bring myself to finish it, unfortunately. So
Don't blame you at all. Yeah. See,
yeah.
I played a little of Zero, and
Okay.
and I thought it was fantastic. But see, I don't bother with that sort of side stuff. I just for the story, and what amazed me is they're big. I mean, again, I don't know with the one you mentioned, but Zero in particular, they're big stories, and they're very well written. I mean, the cutscenes play like movies in between. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean the cutscenes and the story was fantastic, but it was just all the side stuff that goes along with that. I just thought, no, my life is too short. I can't.
Oh, look, I agree. Well, see, my problem with that game was, and I think this is a disgrace in the modern age when we're not living in the 17th century, that Yakuza Zero, and I know that they fixed it in 6 because it was the first thing I checked, but in Zero, you could only save your game at phone boxes, I think it was.
Yeah.
So you had to go. So, of course, like I didn't know that. And I played for, I think, 4 hours one night, and I was like, this is really good. I'm just going to turn the system off and come back, because I just assumed it would autosave. Yeah. Came back the next day, and it's gone. So I'm not playing 4 hours again. So that was disappointing. Yeah. But a little tip, make sure you save before you turn the system off. Yeah, that's good. And look, do you want to touch on Crash Team Racing?
Yeah, I mean, so what's the sort of press releasey thing say? Let's have a look. So we've got start your engines with the original game modes, characters, tracks, power-ups, weapons, and controls. Power slide to glory in additional karts and tracks from beyond the original game. Race online with friends and crash the competition with online leaderboards. So, I mean, speaking as, again, someone who's got kids, I think this could be quite a good one for us all to play. So I don't know if I'm going to buy it on release, but I think when it gets a price drop sort of later in the year, I think this could be one that I jump on with. I'm not massively into my racing games, but I do like an arcade racer now and again.
Yeah. Look. There's definitely some stuff there. Actually, it's good. It's good that there's only that much stuff. They're not slamming us this week, which is lovely. Lovely for us. But some good stuff. And I'm sure that Crash Team Racing will be anticipated by many. I think Judgment will be interesting, and Vacation Simulator, and then as you say, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night for you, perhaps something for everybody. In there. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So, listeners, we're gonna we're going to move on to the topic today. And this is a topic that it's not discussed much. And in full disclosure, it's a topic that often makes me feel a little uncomfortable. I think because there's, it forces us to look at ourselves and some questions and stuff like that with our hobbies and our life. And I'm very privileged that Mr. Foley would like to talk a little bit on this topic as well himself. So this has opened the door for me to allow, to share some of my experiences too. So I'm very much looking forward to this section. I will preface that I understand that mental health issues around gaming and things like that are difficult for everybody to discuss. If it's something that you don't feel you wish to confront yourself with at this point or listen, then I would advise that perhaps now would be the right time to end your journey with us today, or maybe, jump in a little bit later for the ending and the spam. But, for those that do want to stay, we're going to be pretty honest in our look at this, and, maybe hopefully, spark some honesty and some, thought that, if you're going through issues, you're definitely not the only one, and to reach out, to anyone, to us or to anyone closer, Sometimes reaching out to a total stranger actually is the easiest thing to do in these situations. But that's enough of me talking. Do you want to sort of open the door on this a little, Folly?
Yeah, so sort of, I think as I mentioned at the top of the show, sort of 2017, I had a bit of a tough year. So just obviously, as a dad of three, working full time, house, those sorts of things, and it was just it got into a little bit of a. I got into a little bit of a rut where basically all I was doing was being a dad, which that might sound a little bit harsh, but I think which I'll touch on later, but I think a big thing that I struggled with was making time for myself. So obviously 2017, my youngest would have been about 1 at the time, and he obviously needed a lot of attention, still not sleeping through nights, broken night's sleep and things like that. But then also going along with that, my middle lad would have been, he would have only been about sort of 2.5, so really close gap between those guys. And it was sort of a case of I'd got into a bit of a rut where it was broken night's sleep throughout the night, getting up with the youngest. Then my middle boy was up at 6 a.m. without fail every morning. So I would get up with him, breakfast, all those sorts of things, get changed, go to work, back home from work, get the kids fed, get them in bed with my fiance, and then sit down, talk to my fiance about her day, how she got on, how's she feeling, those sorts of things. And I think I'm trying to stay sort of as neutral on this as I can, but I can only really speak from a male perspective, and my experience of male friendships and of guys in general is we don't like to talk about stuff. So it would be a case of I'd ask my fiance, how's your day? How are you? Maybe half an hour, 45 minutes about all that's gone on. And then my turn. So darling, how are you? Yeah, I'm fine. And that's it. And that was it. And looking back, I wasn't fine. It was tough. I felt I was the first one in my friend group to have kids, and have 3 at that as well. So a big part of our friendship is going to the pub, watching sports, having a drink. So I almost felt, and this isn't a reflection on them as friends, it's my own internalization and how I felt at the time. If I wanted to spend time with them, I had to go out and have 8 pints and stay out till 3 a.m. Which, the great thing about kids is they don't care what time you went to bed, they're getting up at 6 a.m. and that is getting up time. So I was like, I cannot crawl in at 3 a.m. stinking of booze and then get woken up at 6 a.m. Like, that's not fair on kids. It's not fair on my fiance. It's not. So I didn't see anyone. I didn't do anything. My life was being a dad, being a partner, and working, and that was it. And as I say, I'm an accountant, so there wasn't a lot of excitement there either. And so it was. I really struggled, and then we went through a little bit of a tough time where I think we were averaging 1 trip to A&E a month with the boys, like having 3 boys in the house, wrestling, running around. There were bumped heads, there were like chest infections, there were all that sort of stuff. So and that came with time off work and things like that, like staying in overnight with them and things at the hospital. And then work got stressful for various reasons as well. So it all just, it really snowballed, and it was a really tough time for me. And looking back, it was really hard. But through all that, if anyone asked me, "Are you all right?" I'd go, "Yeah, I'm fine." And that was the response. That's just the bog standard one line, "Yeah, I'm fine." And a thing, and as work got more stressful, I pretty much experienced, I mean, what I would consider insomnia. I hope I'm not using that term incorrectly, because I know there are other people out there that suffer with insomnia. But I was sort of sleeping 3 hours a night, like, falling asleep on the sofa, going up to bed wide awake, go to sleep, wake up at 2 a.m., just couldn't go back to sleep, like brain whirring of all the things that I've got to do in the day and all those sorts of things. And it got really tough. Obviously, sleep deprivation is a big thing. It's really hard, and it makes your brain do all sorts of funny things. And so, yeah, long story short, I was just really struggling, and it got to the point where I reached out to some friends that I was struggling, and I reached out to my fiance that I was struggling, and it took a lot of courage to do that, because I think a big part of being a dad was I felt I had to be the protector. My role was to make sure everyone else was okay. So and going back to video games, I like the idea of doing anything for myself. I was just like, no, like I need to make sure that the kids are happy and healthy and everything's great. I need to make sure my fiance is okay, because she's had a baby in the last 12 months. Like, that's the hardest thing one of the hardest things the human body will go through, if not the hardest. So I was like, I need to make sure she's good and how she's feeling, and I just was not reflecting on what this was doing to me and how I was struggling at all.
And then the problem there becomes, I don't know if you find this, but that if you do take time for yourself when you're in that mindset, you feel guilty
100%,
for taking the time.
yeah. And so I wouldn't. But I also, I was worried that if I spoke to my friends about it, they'd go, "Oh, all right, well, that's rubbish, man. Hope you feel better." And then I stopped getting invited to the pub, because who wants to hang around with the guy who's sad? You know what I mean? And with my fiance as well, I sort of thought, and again, I can't stress this enough. This is really how I was internalizing things. This wasn't like based on my fiance's personality, but I thought if I was going to turn around and say, "Look, I'm really struggling. I need some help, or I need something," it would be a case of, "Well, I've had a baby. Like, what? Like, get over yourself. It's fine. Everything's all right. Stop complaining." And obviously, when I reached out to my friends and I reached out to my fiance, that was the exact opposite of what actually happened. Because when you're sleep deprived, when you're anxious, when you're possibly suffering from depression, your view of the world and your perception of events is completely skewed in the wrong direction. So when I finally reached out to friends and reached out to my partner, they helped me, they talked to me. They were fantastic. They were really, really good. And I actually,
Can I ask there? Sorry to interrupt you there.
no,
Did
of
you?
course, anytime.
Yeah, you must have felt very vulnerable, I imagine, at that point when
100%,
you did reach out. So
100%, yeah.
how did you sort of? I mean, it must have been a sort of a process to get to that point as well.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, no, it absolutely was. I mean, for a while, I was sort of looking at things in secret. I mean, your nearest and dearest will know if something's wrong. Ultimately, like my fiance knew that I was going through a difficult time, because I talked about stresses at work. I did say, "Oh, today's had been a tough day," but I maybe didn't let on the level it was affecting me and my mental health. So she knew I was under a lot of stress at work, but she just thought I was dealing with it and I was just cracking on, and I'd come out the other end when work quietened down and everything would be fine. But I don't think she realised the extent that that I was struggling, and so it sort of led. They were obviously great, and I got a lot of support from friends and family, but then that led me to actually seek some help. So I went to my GP, and I spoke to my GP and said, look, I'm having a tough time. I'm not sleeping. Like, it's everything's getting a bit too much. And she referred me to the local mental health services, which was really good. And that was the first moment where sort of if you could almost see like a line graph of the trajectory of how I was feeling, that was like the up blip that brilliant, I'm going to get help. And I'm going to start feeling better, and this is going to be really good. So it took a while to get an appointment. Again, without going into politics or anything like that, we obviously in the UK, we have the NHS, which is fantastic, but is very underfunded, especially when it comes to mental health. And so I sort of had to wait a while for an appointment, but that was fine. I started running again, like just once or twice a week, just going out for a run, clear my head. And I was sort of starting to, I wouldn't say get back to normal, but I was starting to get to a point where I felt like I could cope a bit better. Like I was maybe suffering from like lack of sleep 2 or 3 days a week, but I was at the weekends, I was able to zone out from work and catch up and get like 8 hours or something. And it was, it was getting better. So that was great. But then basically going back to services being quite underfunded, the help that I then got, and again, this isn't a criticism of the NHS. Like I say, they're fantastic, and we're very lucky to have them over in the UK. But I literally got given a questionnaire, so I had to fill out like 12 questions, 14 questions, basically asking some pretty uncomfortable stuff about the severity of what you've been feeling and the severity of your thoughts and things like that, and these were the same questions that I'd been getting asked by my fiance, and my answer was, yeah, I'm fine. Like, I'm fine. So, of course, I was sort of answering it slightly on the optimistic side, slightly, I didn't want to make a big deal of it. I'm all right. Everything's okay. I'm just having a bit of a tough time. Let's not worry about it. And I was under the depression scale. So I wasn't certified as depressed at that time. But I think I was like almost double on the anxiety. So she was like, you clearly need to do something about this. Like, and we had a bit of a chat and things like that. And then I think it was sort of like a month until my next appointment. And so I sort of waited and I carried on doing what I was doing. I was running and all those sorts of things. And then I went back for my second appointment and I had to fill in the same questionnaire. And I filled it in, and again, erred on the side of caution because I'm fine. I'm a guy. I can handle it. Nothing's that bad. It's all okay. And I was actually under the threshold for both anxiety and depression. But all of the questions only focused on the last 2 weeks. So it was literally, in the last 2 weeks, have you struggled to sleep? In the last 2 weeks. So regardless of the last 4, 6, 8 weeks, it's those 2 weeks in isolation they were talking about. So I was under the threshold for those last 2 weeks. And I was told, basically, we had a chat, and the woman who saw me was really helpful, and she let me get stuff off my chest and things like that, but basically told me at the end of the session, you're actually under the threshold now, so we would not book another session. And like, this was 2 sessions in, and like I sort of went, oh, okay. And that sort of side of my brain kicked in that went, see, told you were all right, stop whinging, like you're okay, you've got nothing to worry about, why are you being an idiot? So I sort of walked home in a bit of a daze that, right, I've been building up that I was going to get fixed, and I'm where I was before. And I sort of came home, and my fiance had got the boys in bed, and she sort of said, so how did it go? And I, all honesty, like I just sobbed. Like I just sobbed. I lost it completely and was just like, this is it. This is me. This is how I'm going to feel forever. And it was horrible. Like, it was really, really horrible. I just felt like that was it. I was going to have the odd good day, and then a lot of days just feeling really terrible. And I didn't know how I would function as an adult, like for the next 30 or 40 years, feeling the way I was feeling. And so it was at that point that I was like, well, it's sink or swim. I've got to do something to change things. And I sort of tried to think of ways that I could combat it. And one of those things was being a bit more selfish. which is tough. It'll be tough for any parent, mother or father or anything like that. The idea of taking time for yourself when you've got little people who you are essentially molding to be the next generation, it's difficult. But I asked for a PS4 for my 30th birthday, which was like a month away or something like that, and I asked for God of War, which I know your feelings on God of War, CJ. I know you weren't the biggest fan of that particular title, and so I got that, and literally, within weeks, and I do not want to paint video games for me as this fix-all that all of a sudden a light bulb. I was amazing and everything was fine again, and play games all the time because games fix you. That's not what I'm saying at all. But for me, it just allowed me that couple of hours a week to just zone out and, especially with God of War, feel powerful, feel in control. And I think video games help with that sort of thing. And I also think trophy hunting helps with that sort of thing, because there are no certainties in sort of day-to-day life, and especially adult life. There are very few certainties. If you go to work and you absolutely blow it out the park and you are the best version of you on that day, you don't get a promotion the next day. Obviously, you have to keep up that performance, and you might not ever get that promotion, or things change. You might lose your job because of unforeseen circumstances. But with trophy hunting and with video games, if you do X, you get Y. If you beat this boss, you go to the next level. If you kill 10,000 enemies, you get this silver trophy. And for me personally, it adds that element of control and that element of certainty in it, that if I do this, I get this, and it's that nice little reward for taking the time to do something that you don't see day to day. And I think that's how video games have helped me with anxiety and on those days that are a little bit tough, I think.
Yeah, look, thank you for being so honest. That is look, there's so many things in there. Maybe we'll just touch on a couple if you like. And just in the interest there, just going back to that mental health questionnaire that you said you had to fill out. Now, so listeners, I haven't talked about this before, but about 6 or 7 years ago, I had a forced job change, and up to that point, I was very much my job. We were one of the same identity or whatever else, and so that was a very harsh reality for me. I worked because in effect I could work for myself in that field. I was working all the time, and it was the money, the social life that goes along with it, the power and the status was all things that I became very, very addicted to. Switched it now to trophies, I suppose, anyway. But at the time, and when it stopped, because it wasn't of my control, I would have continued. In fact, I'd probably still be doing that today if it was an option. And so it wasn't of my control. And I went into I've never been classified as depressed clinically or whatever, but I suppose into a lethargy of just no purpose. And I became incredibly jaded with life. I think I started to read authors that supported my viewpoint that nothing really matters. Why bother doing anything? And this sort of attitude, which coming from a person that was always highly on the go, it was a dramatic change for me. And I spent too long in this stage, a good almost a year. And then finally, through some help and some pushing, I went and sought out a psychologist. And I did a similar test. We have a very similar test here in Australia. And the questions are confronting, as you say. And it's on a number system here, where 10 being you feel at the most, to 0 you feel, okay or whatever. And you're sitting there, and, it's very intimidating to if you've never been to a mental health professional the first time. It can be very intimidating because you are admitting that there's something wrong with you, and you need help, which is very difficult. And of course, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, it's probably an 8. I'm fairly along that scale, but I'm not going to put an 8 because that just looks dreadful. I'm going to put a 4. And the same thing happened to me. She added it up or whatever, and she said, look, I don't think you need to be here. Your score is this. And I thought, well, whatever. And then she said to me, and it was a very, very true point. She said, the only way this will work is that if you're ready for it to work. And, her job is basically to act as a mirror unto myself. So she'll just project what I am back at myself, and whether I'm really ready to see that or not. And I think that is the key with all therapy, whatever the addiction is you do need to be ready for a change yourself. And you need to be not only honest with yourself, but you need to be ready to push that honesty out into the world, or at least to some people initially that can help you. And I agree with you. That is a terrifying thing to do. One of the things I'd have to ask you is, when you finally got to that point with that honesty, did you find, and the help, did you find like an incredible sense of relief at all, or?
I think yes. When I originally sought the help and admitted that I needed to go and speak to someone, there was an amazing amount of relief, because I was taking steps to get better. But then there was also then the crushing disappointment of when I was told, actually, you're all right, and I didn't have the response I had back wasn't, do you maybe want another go at this? Are you maybe underplaying how you're feeling? The response was,
Yes.
oh no, we all have a tough time, but you are okay. Like, don't worry. And they did. It was very open ended. It was, you can self-certify if you have a really tough time. You can self-certify and say, no, things have changed, I need to come back. But it had took so much for me to get to that point where I put myself out there, that then to actually, the idea then, because like I say, I came home and was just completely distraught that this was my life and this is how I was going to feel for the next 40 years or 50 years, however long I was around. The idea of then going back and putting myself out there again to actually go, actually, can we try again? Was just, I just could not think of that as a potential option. It took so much to get out there the first time, and then being knocked back, I just couldn't think that I'd get back out there again. But I listened to an audiobook around that time, which was by a guy called Matt Haig, who's a very good mental health author. He's really good. And the title is far more severe than it needs to be, but it's called Reasons to Stay Alive, which I would urge anyone, if you're having a tough time, give it a go. He was basically, I think he'd finished uni, and him and his girlfriend were in Ibiza, and they were PR people in Ibiza for like the big club parties out there, which sounds absolute heavenly. But he sort of recognizes that he was actually self-medicating with drink and drugs a lot to hide from the fact that he wasn't feeling fulfilled and things like that. And it's just sort of talks about his experience. And there was a line that's really stuck with me, which it's one of those lines that you could see shared on social media with the background of like a sunset and things like that, which really normally does turn me off completely. But it's the bottom of the valley does not offer the clearest view, which at the time I sort of went, oh, that's interesting. But now I can really see, looking back, as I am today, sat here talking to you, looking back to how I was feeling then, just the complete skew I had on the world and my surroundings was completely the opposite of the way I should have been viewing things. And now healthier, some days are still tough, but happier and healthier than I was then. Looking back, you really can see that, well, no, things weren't the way I thought they were. Actually, when so-and-so said this, they didn't mean that, they meant this, and things like that. And I think that's a really key thing for me, to always reflect back. Don't try and forget the bad days. Look back at the bad days and try and understand what made you feel bad, and whether actually the things that were making you feel bad maybe were only in your head. You almost need to embrace those bad days and live with those bad days, because you're going to have them. We all do to lesser or greater degrees, but especially if you think you're struggling, don't try and bury that. Embrace it, because you've come through it and you will be stronger. Without getting all preachy, you've come through it and you will be stronger. And the next time one of those feelings hits, which it will, like you can't sugarcoat it, you'll be better equipped to deal with it, and you will know those coping mechanisms and know how to get yourself out of it much better. Which is something with video games, which is my particular thing that helps me on those tough days.
Yeah, look, that it's 100% true. And as you say, when you're caught in the hole, you don't see it. You don't, like everybody else sees it around you. But the human mind is an amazing thing. It will justify anything and allow you to justify anything. And it's funny that you mentioned you needed to become more selfish. But one of the realizations I made is actually in the funk there. In it is you are incredibly selfish because you're withholding yourself from other people because you're not yourself anymore, and so it's a different type of selfish, I suppose. But the people around you are being denied who you are because you can't. You're denying yourself, in effect.
Yeah.
So it's a funny hole to get in, and I that's what I like about you is you've used gaming in a way, a positive way, if you like, to sort of assist you, I suppose we should say, and alleviate some of these things. Yeah, so that's good because I know there's some people that listen and some people that I've talked to in the past, but I think gaming has maybe perhaps gone the other way for them. It's become an escapism from reality and whatever else. So it is definitely a fine line, and I know it may seem that I'm, a little hypocritical, but one of my issues, and that's why I mentioned it earlier, is that I do feel very guilty most of the time I spend gaming. It is part of, I think it has a lot to do with the fact why I don't play very much of every game. And I would never play I would never play during the day. I have a bit of a stigma against that. It's sort of a nighttime activity, I think, for me. And I never play for maybe more than 2 to 3 hours. 3 hours would be a long session for me. And it's just because of the guilt, that I should be doing something else or whatever else. So I definitely understand that premise that you had of taking time for yourself. It's a hard thing.
Absolutely, it's really tough. And I think there's still a bit of a stigma around video games. Like I think,
of course,
I was thinking a while ago because I was sort of looking at possibly other jobs and things like that, and I was having a look at my CV, and under hobbies, I cannot imagine a situation where I would put video games as my hobby. It has to be reading. It has to be cinema, like not films, cinema, to make it sound really highbrow and things like that. And there's terms like binge watching for Netflix and things like that are almost held in high regard within society. But if you were to tell someone, "Oh yeah, I just played a video game for 4 hours," it'd be like, "Are you 12? Why have you done that? Like, what? I don't understand." But there still seems to be that there's not that general acceptance that there is as with other things. Like if I say, "Oh yeah, I read for 4 hours last night," it's like, "Oh, that's really nice," but actually all I've done is read a magazine. But if I've told people I've read, they're going to think that automatically think I've been reading Dickens and I've been like expanding my mind. But so it is a tough one, and I think it's a bit ridiculous to me as well because obviously with video games you're problem solving, you're adapting, you're learning systems and things like that. It's far more active than I watched a TV show for 3 or 4 hours, or I watched a movie. As much like don't get me wrong, I love TV and movies as much as everyone else, but that's far more sedentary than video games. But I think video games still carry that stigma of young boys in their bedroom with the curtains closed, and it's not seen as the social force for change that it can be.
Look, I 100% agree there. And one of my biggest pet hates actually is that people that play on mobile phones, they don't classify themselves as gamers. They see that as a derogatory term. Yet one of the things that amazes me, and it's getting worse and worse in the way society is heading, is you go out and people are just glued to their phones like everywhere. Yeah. And it's, look, I don't want to pass judgment, but I will. And I think that's unbelievable. And these are the same people that wouldn't class it. Like, I don't know what they're doing their Facebook or a game or who knows, but it's all the same. It's basically akin to mind rot, I think, in a way, and they do that seems to be tolerated and accepted, and that's a normal practice, for want of a better phrase. And I think, I mean, when you put that against gaming, as you say, there's puzzle solving, there's mind expanding. You can play different genres. You can learn history. You can be exposed to art. Everything is there. So there are in my mind, there's no comparison at all. I think, but I think you're right. We're not quite at that point yet, which I think also makes it difficult for people, as you say, maybe to take gaming on as a thing because of that, that the societal stigma or whatever.
I think as well within gaming communities, or certainly certain gaming communities, there can be that element of gatekeeping of you aren't a gamer because you've not done this or that. And I mean, taking my fiance as an example, she would not classify herself as a gamer at all. However, we really enjoy playing quiz games together because we both like quizzes. So we've got like Trivial Pursuit on the PlayStation and things like that, and we'll maybe dip into that. And when our boys were younger, when she was up in the night, obviously feeding, she would have like a mobile game or something like that, something to distract her attention while she was feeding, so she didn't fall back asleep during feeding. And so I'm like, well, if you do those things and you enjoy those things, you are a gamer. Like you know, we can enjoy video games, but because of the gatekeeping within certain communities, she will not classify herself as a gamer, and that shuts her off to a lot of different experiences. I'm hoping soon. She quite likes the look of Edith Finch, so we're going to jump into that in a couple of weeks, and sort of sit and play through that together instead of watching a movie or those sorts of things. But again, like if she was to go online and say, "Oh, I video games are great. I've just completed Edith Finch," the idiots that would pop up and say, "Oh, well, that's not a game, is it? Like it's you're not a gamer because you've not got the platinum on Dark Souls, etc., etc." And it's just like, we can all enjoy things at certain levels, and I think a level of that a reason I'm so keen for people to talk about mental health and how they're feeling is because I think a lot of that gatekeeping comes from a level of insecurity on the behalf of the gatekeeper. They have to feel superior for whatever reason. Like if you need to feel superior to someone, that's not their problem, that's your problem. So if we can talk about those things, I think it will lead to people being more inclusive and getting more people involved, because everyone will just be happy that everyone else is enjoying video games. They might not be enjoying them their way, but they're enjoying them, and that's great.
That's exactly, yeah. Look, I totally agree. I think there is much issues coming from the community, and I think one of the easiest ways to spot it in somebody, and this is a test I use on myself. Always, we should always self-reflect and check. Is that you should be asking the questions yourself to learn. You shouldn't be speaking just to speak. And I think that I mean it's an obvious statement or whatever else, but I think it leads a lot to what you say. Like a person that continues to bang on about as you sort of say your superiority or whatever, it usually is the person that needs the most help or whatever else. So, with that in mind, and I know not everybody obviously is in that position, but I hope from us talking about this today, you realize that we're both very upfront about it, and most people are. If you're sort of feeling like this, even if you feel a little bit like that, you might not, you don't have to commit yourself, but just maybe reach out and you'll realize that, I mean, whether it's paying the mortgage, whether it's job concerns, whether it's children, whether it's, your partner, whether it's, anything yourself, you're getting older, whatever, your parents, all these factors that are in, everybody is dealing with different things, so never feel that, you're alone in whatever the thing is that you are, but, I think that's really all we can say, isn't it? Like, I mean, we could talk forever on this,
absolutely.
but it was
Absolutely.
a very mature conversation. I've been looking forward to a topic like this for some time. So thank you for sharing so honestly.
No problem. If I can just say, CJ, sorry, there is a great, I think they're UK based, but I'm assuming you can still use the facilities. There's a Twitter account which I believe is at CalmZone.net, which they are a charity, as I say, and they run phone line and a web chat every day, 5 p.m. till midnight, I believe, that you can just drop by, talk about how you're feeling, your struggles, how you're coping. They're really good, and there's a great podcast that goes along with it called Conversations Against Living Miserably, which is it's two comedians who they have a third comedian on every week, and they just basically talk about their issues, be it anxiety, imposter syndrome, whatever people have struggled with and overcome. They talk through them, and it's a really great podcast. I'd recommend people give it a go, and all proceeds of that go to funding this Calm charity, which is available as I say, for people who may need it.
Yeah, fantastic. And if you're in Australia, I would recommend using the services of Beyond Blue. They offer a similar service with the phone. It's totally confidential and it's totally free, so you can ring them at any time if you just want to start the process or even just get some information or whatever else. They're a fantastic service here for people in Australia that want to reach out as well. So, look, as always, when we have a deep topic, I feel so embarrassed and shameful to do this next, but look, I just can't help myself. So I'm going to force you into doing it. This is one that we were talking about earlier with a game where you just had a big moment. You just need to stop. And then there's just some really annoying person that makes you do something like this. But, look, that's what it is. So shall we, listeners? Okay. I can't segue it. It's just impossible. So let's just do it. Let's have a look at some spam for the week.
Absolutely.
Let's get some dopamine rush with trophies. That's important as well. So, look, I'm going to start us off with one. We just have a little look. And I'm going to start us off only because I played this just before recording tonight. The Refunct. So this is a little puzzle, a little platformer, really. It's a really beautiful game. I think you can probably play this in 30 minutes. It's skill dependent because there is a trophy for beating the game in 4 minutes. Once you learn, well, for me, that is very tight, but I did manage to finish it at 8 on my second go, so I don't think I'll get 4 ever. But I think if you watch the video or whatever, I think it's quite easy. I mean, there's already a lot of people that have done it, but it's, I'm not going to say any more than it's got some lovely music. And when you finish it, you'll see why. It's really uplifting. It's a really beautiful little game, and it costs like literally a couple of dollars or something, and it does have a plat as well. So get on that, whether you're a trophy whore or not. That's worth it. Do you want to throw something out there? Do you want to take a stab?
I'm not sure of the upcoming rat games, to be honest. And the upcoming sort of trash games. I've not seen much on the system at the moment.
Yes, well, they come out every week. And they surprise us all.
Did you ever play, actually, going back from one for a few weeks ago, that is it My Little Sister or something like that?
Oh yes, no, I haven't played that. Have you played that?
Looked really cool, actually. No, I thought it looked really cool, and I sort of clicked on it and saw that it was a rat game and was like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting that, but it's something that I may dip into in a few weeks, maybe when I need a break from that Wild Arms 3 grind, because it stylistically it looked fantastic, and so if I get a platinum and have a good time, fantastic, great.
Yeah, exactly. Look, against popular belief, some of these games are actually fun. So
yeah, absolutely.
You can have a good time. Now whether you want to do it 6 times or not, that's a separate story. but definitely one is good. And look, I don't think there's much there. The only other one we'll drop is this Bouncy Bullets, which is coming out, I think, in the next week or two. So about the time this releases, it'll be 6 stacks of the usual. I think that is going to be a rat game or similar style. It is absolutely ridiculous. 30 minutes, you could probably set your controller on the ground and let a dog play it for you or something. It is, but whatever. I'm not sure that there's going to be too much merit to that game. But look, if you're tired or whatever, you just want some fun, it will definitely be. It will definitely be that. Wow, it just looks ridiculous. But anyway, who knows? Yeah, cool. So look, I want to thank you for joining me today, Mr. Folly. It's been fantastic. I've had a good time. I hope you have as well.
No, I absolutely have. I've had a blast. Like I say, this first ever time on a podcast. It was incredibly exciting, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you. Hopefully it was entertaining for people listening as well.
Not a problem. And look, it always gets better, So you started with us, and then you can move forward. The next experience will be even stronger. No, look, I do thank you. Look, where you mentioned your stream and stuff. Where can we find you? Would you like to do a little self-promotion?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitch at AfraidofTheFolly, which is all one word. I stream on Tuesday nights and Sunday nights from 8 p.m. UK time. If you want to drop by and say hey. And then also I'm on Twitter, which is also AfraidofTheFolly, but I always get confused explaining this. The A of Afraid is the @ symbol, because obviously everyone has an @ symbol at the start of their Twitter handle. So yeah, you can find me at AfraidofTheFolly, and I'm on there. I'm pretty active on there most days. I post about the streams if you want to see when I'm going live and things like that. I tweet a lot of mental health. That Calm charity I mentioned, I do a lot of their retweets and things. I retweet a lot of their stuff if you're looking out for that. And I try not to tweet about politics as much as I can, but that I occasionally get angry and post. But I am genuinely trying to get better at that. I'm a grown man and I need to act like it. So yeah, both of those places you can find me if you want to drop by, say hey.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. Well, look, now I've got to get this in the right order. Make sure you drop in and sub. Sub is Twitch, yes. Sub, if you feel like it, and then follow. Follow is Twitter. See, I'm getting better. Look at that.
Well, you can actually follow on Twitch as well. So I'm not. Just to confuse you, CJ. You can only sub, I believe, when you're a Twitch affiliate. I'm not even actually at the Twitch affiliate level yet. I'm sitting at 37 followers, and I need to get to 50. So a follow's really appreciated, but ultimately I'd just say stop by. There are a lot of people on there that you see that have got sort of thousands and thousands of followers, but then they get like 2 viewers per stream, and I'm really not after that. I'm happy to have just 50 followers if I get 10 people. I'd rather have 50 followers and 10 people dropping by than 1,000 followers and 5 people dropping by. I'm all about just chatting, meeting people, hanging out, and supporting each other.
No, look, that sounds excellent there. And look, I apologize for that. Sorry, listeners. You'd think after 16 episodes I would understand how some of this works, but I think I'm getting less clued up on this. But anyway, look, if you're trying to now you're nervous, aren't you? If you're trying to find us on Twitter, I probably still am. It's at @push2plat, push2plat. And look, I've decided. Well, it was taken away from me, I believe, the Twitter, because I don't know what I'm doing. And the wonderful The Minders City will be operating that Twitter. So something will happen. I don't know what, but something. So follow us or like us or whatever. I don't care. However it works is fantastic for all of us. The show is available on iTunes Podcast, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio, and Spotify. Plus whatever those other ones are that just seem to randomly pop up every now and then. Please remember, if you could give us a like, a subscribe. I'm going to go with that. Subscribe or follow or whatever. Basically, spread the word. It helps us just reaching out to other guests like the wonderful Mr. Folly today, so that they feel like they would like to come and talk to us, and so in turn we can provide hopefully an interesting show for you. So with that in mind, we've all survived E3. Hopefully it was amazing, it was fantastic. Hopefully Sony is still with us or not, and until next week, happy trophy hunting. See you later.